just about 9 years ago. Norfolk's been hosting cruise ships for a number of years, but the opening of the terminal has really enhanced the city's ability to accommodate those cruise ships more efficiently. Ships in Carnival Cruise Lines, Holland America, Norwegian Cruise Lines, Costa Lines, Princess Lines, and many others have all had ships calling here. Most cruise ships set sail from Norfolk during the warmer months of the year. Most of them are offering 7 and 10 night cruises down to the eastern and western parts of the Caribbean. Occasionally, some of the ships are also setting sail for Bermuda. Now, coming into view to your right, on the other side of the cruise ship terminal, is a very impressive U.S. warship. The ship I'm about to point out to you this morning is one of 4 Iowa-class battleships, which were in fact the largest battleships ever built, with the exception of 2 constructed by the Japanese during the Second World War. First of the Iowa-class ships built was BB-61, which is the USS Iowa. BB-62 was USS New Jersey. BB-63, the USS Missouri. And the battleship we're looking at to our right, the 4th and the very last of the class constructed to your right, is BB-64, the USS Wisconsin. The ship was built in the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard and commissioned on the 16th of April, 1944. All 4 of the Iowa-class ships saw action during the Second World War, including the Wisconsin, and won 5 battle stars for engagements against the Japanese. But these were large and were also very expensive ships to operate. When the war was over, the Iowa-class ships were decommissioned. These ships were later recommissioned during the Korean War, and then they were decommissioned. The battleship New Jersey was even activated a very brief period of time during the Vietnam War, but shortly after that decommissioned. It wasn't until the Reagan administration and the tremendous buildup of the U.S. Armed Services that the Iowa-class ships were once again brought back into operation. Wisconsin was the last of the 4 to go into service, and they'd be recommissioning this ship in 1986, but not before they spent $470 million to activate the ship. A lot of the money went to modernize Wisconsin. After all, this is a World War II era battleship. A lot of the money went to new weapon systems, where they left aboard most of the ship's original weaponry, adding to her the ability of launching guided missiles. You would find a pie on that ship's superstructure, 8 armor-plated boxes, 4 on either side. The 8 boxes combined may contain 32 Tomahawk cruise missiles. Tomahawk is the most accurate long-range missile in the U.S. arsenal. They may be tipped with a tactical nuclear warhead with a range of 900 miles, or conventionally armed at a range of 700 miles. By the way, the missile has pinpoint accuracy. The ship also was outfitted with 16 canisters designed to carry 16 of our Navy's anti-ship missiles called Harpoon, which is the most versatile missile system in our Navy. That weapon is deployed aboard most of the Navy's surface ships. It can be launched from the submarines as well as from some of the Navy's aircraft. No matter what platform it is launched on, Harpoon becomes a low-flying sea-to-sea missile, one that is designed to fly only 15 to 20 feet above the surface of the water, making it nearly impossible for an enemy ship to detect on radar when it is right upon them. For that reason, Harpoon has a better than 95% kill rate. The missile has a range of 80 nautical miles, delivering to its target a high explosive warhead with armor-piercing capability. The ship also was outfitted with 4 Vulcan-failing explosive weapons, which we'll tell you more about a little later in today's tour. As you may have guessed, what our Navy left aboard the Iowa-class ships were the big guns. Predominantly large guns you'll find aboard the Wisconsin are in fact the largest guns ever deployed on a U.S. warship. These are 16-inch 50 caliber guns. The Wisconsin carries 9 of them on board. There are 3 guns situated to a turret looking directly to your right, a great view of the aft turret on the ship. The 2 other turrets identical to that are just ahead of us are just aboard the ship's main structure. The barrels on those guns are just under 67 foot in length. Each one of the barrels weighs 94 tons. Those guns have the ability of firing a 2,700-pound projectile, which is more than the weight of a Volkswagen Beetle, 23 miles to a target with great accuracy. Smaller guns up on the side superstructure of the ship above us to your right are 5-inch 38 calibers. They have an effective range of 10 miles. The ship carries 12 of the 5-inch 38s. When the Iowa-class ships came back online in the 80s, they did so with an awesome array of firepower. Next to the 3 aircraft carriers we'll see at the base today, next to those carriers, the Wisconsin to your right is the largest warship you'll see on the tour with a battle load. This is a 58,000-ton ship. She is 887 foot in length, 108 foot across her beam. We find it interesting our Navy had built the Iowa-class ships with those specifications that would just barely permit a ship like this to transit the locks in the Panama Canal. Locks in the Panama Canal were 1,000 foot long by 110 foot wide. This ship is 887 by 108. There's no problem transiting the locks lengthwise, but widthwise, when an Iowa-class ship like this moves to the locks in the Panama Canal, they have only a foot of clearance on either side. At this point in time, all 4 of the Iowa-class ships have again been decommissioned. They're very large and very expensive ships to operate. Wisconsin arrived at Nautica just about 15 years ago. The ship is open to the public for tour as part Nauticus and National Maritime Center. The last conflict the ship was involved in was an Operation Desert Storm back in the early 90s when Iraq invaded Kuwait. When our Navy first put the Iowa-class ship to sea in the 40s, ships like this initially carried a crew of 3,000. Even after being modernized in the 80s, it still carried a crew of around 1,600. This is a fast ship, even by today's standards. She, of course, is conventionally powered. Aboard the Wisconsin are 8 boilers designed to generate steam that would turn 4 steam turbines on this ship that, when combined, can generate 212,000 shaft horsepower. This is a 43-mile-an-hour warship, and what's amazing about that, the technology for building the ship dates all the way back to the late 1930s. If you're in the downtown Norfolk area, every few hours of your time to spare, it's really worth your while to tour the Wisconsin as well as the Nauticus Museum. These ships are heavily armored. Just a few examples. The size of the gun turrets on this ship are 17 inches thick. The tops are 5 inches thick. That's all Class A solid armor plating. Now the ship's main deck, where the teak decking is, the deck that lies immediately below them, so the armor deck is 5 inches thick. Size of the ship around the engineering spaces are 11 to 13 inches thick. During the Second World War, the Japanese had built 2 battleships larger than this and armed with 18-inch guns. Keeping this in mind, when our Navy designed and built the Iowa-class ships, they wanted to make sure if one of those ships ever encountered one of those Japanese ships in battle, they would be able to sustain a direct hit and remain in operation. Pretty incredible warships. Black-hulled sailing vessel we're passing to our left is the schooner Virginia, an exact replica of a schooner built for the Virginia Pilot Association in the early 1900s. The schooner back to our left was built right here in downtown Norfolk about 12 years ago, now serving as the Goodwill Sailing Ambassador for the state of Virginia. And back over to our right, we'll find a couple of condominiums. The condos now directly on our right are the Pier Point condos, that were built here about the same time the battleship arrived in Norfolk, which was around 15 years ago. Further to our right, on the other side of the Pier Point condos, are the Freemason Harbor condominiums. A waterfront warehouse that just about 30 years ago was converted to some very nice waterfront condos. Further inshore to our right and ahead of us is a complex of white buildings with blue trim, making up the headquarters of the Atlantic Marine Center, which is part of NOAA. NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. At that facility, they map and chart the bottoms of oceans, harbors, rivers, bays, and sounds. In turn, the charts are used by ship and boat captains, almost the same as a motorist would use a road map. Small white ship of the NOAA docks is a NOAA ship Thomas Jefferson, used by NOAA and Coast to G. That exhibit work, in other words, for mapping and charting. Past the NOAA base on our right is the Bramilton Avenue Bridge. Just on the other side of the Bramilton Bridge is a very nice section of Norfolk called Ghent. A lot of nice old homes in that area. Most were built toward the latter part of the 1800s. Out to the left of the Bramilton Bridge and to our right, there's also a small 4-story white